dollars, and particularly if the person giving the gifts had business before the agency, yeah, it would be enough, at least for an inspector general investigation and potentially a criminal investigation. But we do live in a system of two tiers of justice. And we do live in a system in which the Donald Trumps of the world do get to be in contempt of court and don't get in trouble. They get presidential immunity. They get delays upon delays upon delays. So do I believe that there will be a criminal investigation of a justice of the Supreme Court? No, I don't. And that is the reality of, and it's the bitter irony that when you hear the powerful complain that they are being held to a different standard, I shake my head and say, yes, you are, but not the way you think.
Right. Well, what really stands out here is that the Senate actually found that Justice Thomas accepted even more undisclosed luxury travel sponsored by Harlan Crow, this time a private jet flight from Hawaii to New Zealand. We did an episode just a few weeks ago about Justice Thomas having to amend his financial disclosures because he neglected to include major gifts. So could there still be more out there after all of this media scrutiny?
Yeah. I mean, look, we say all of this media scrutiny, but honestly, right. The scrutiny here has largely been, and kudos to them for doing this, but it has largely not been by the news outlets that right. cover the Supreme Court, right? I mean, that's the irony, right? It's been sort of journalists, investigative journalists, and journalists who care about good government who have been leading the charge here. But, the problem with the Supreme Court is that unlike members of Congress, where there are a score of journalists who are poring over everything they do to try to see if there's a misstep, unlike the presidential campaigns or governors, where there are press corps that just cover them day in, day out, a lot of the Supreme Court media coverage is basically like just taking what the Supreme Court says and then right. translating into English to people. They're not actually covering the justices of the court in a critical fashion. And I think that has to change. So is it possible that there is more out there? Well, of course there's more out there because Brian, it's been months and months where each time we say, well, is it possible there's more out there? There's a lot more out there. It's not like they're finding a couple of things here and there. They're finding they're breaking major stories.
Yeah. Well, what kind of legislation then would actually serve as a proper deterrent for this kind of behavior?
Look, I think a few things. I mean, the first thing is that we need to reorient our system of government